All right, let's go to this next story here. This is courtesy of PC Gamer, which might as well be a government entity at this point. But PC Gamer had this story. Gaming's largest lobbying group says Trump's tariffs would negatively impact hundreds of millions of Americans and do serious damage to the video game industry. This is courtesy of Andy Chalk, who we've read Andy Chalk's stuff before. To be clear, the gaming lobby is upset about what will happen to video games. I will say this. I don't know if there's anything that Trump can do to damage the video game industry worse than what the video game industry has done to damage the video game industry, but that's just me. And the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, is the company we're talking about. This, now, for those who don't know, the ESA, these are the big dick swingers in the video game industry. These are the guys who make things go. We've talked about these tariffs. We haven't talked about these tariffs on the show, but this has been an ongoing point of conversation the last few days. And we'll just read this story as is. It says, you know, Blabs, actually, you read this story. This is a giant wall of text.
I knew you were going to ask me that one.
Yeah.
I was like, read. Okay, the U.S. government is set to launch a massive sweeping trade against Canada, Mexico, and China tomorrow. Although Mexico earlier today was given a 1-month reprieve, which has the potential to throw international economies into chaos, destabilize world security, and make video games more expensive. I just love how it's like chaos and everything and video games.
Right,
Wow.
yes. Oh my God, that's hilarious.
In response, the Entertainment Software Association, the trade group representing video games publishing in the US, has issued a statement saying the move is likely due to serious harm to the game industry and gamers alike. Yes, I'm really upset about this.
You're upset about the tariffs?
No, I was being sarcastic.
Okay.
Viva America. Video games are the most popular and beloved forms of entertainment for Americans of all ages, the ESA said. Tariffs on video games devices and related products would negatively impact hundreds of millions of Americans and would harm the industry's significant contributions to the U.S. economy. We look forward to working with the administration and Congress to find ways to sustain the economic growth supported by our sector. Video games themselves are largely distributed digitally these days, especially on PC. Can't do that, and so are mostly exempt from the tariffs. But video game hardware, the PCs, consoles, and peripherals we use to actually play those games is not, and the impact of prices could be significant. We said last week that if the U.S. President Donald Trump follows through on his threat to place tariffs possibly as high as 100% on chips coming from Taiwan, an RTX 5090 for $2,000 will seem cheap in the aftermath. Even a lower rate like 25% planned tariffs on products originating from Canada and Mexico would result in a serious bump. Trump said when he announced the proposed tariffs on incoming chips that manufacturers like Nvidia and AMD are not going to want to pay a 25, 50, or even 100% tax on imported goods. But the reality is they won't. They'll just attach the increased cost to the product price and let consumers eat it. And there is a lot of money on the table. The ESA said in January that total video games hit $58.7 billion in 2024. Most of that was video game content, but the hardware and console sales accounted for $4.9 billion, down to $6.5 billion in 2023.
Real quick, I think this is actually a really... Go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Blast.
No, it's an interesting point because, like, you have a PlayStation 5. No one's buying it, really. I'm like, obviously people are buying it, but, like, there's no games, so people aren't going to go out and buy the consoles and stuff.
So they said in 2024, there was almost $60 billion in total video game sales, and most of that was video game content. What exactly does that mean? So only hardware and console sales accounted for $5 billion of that. So there's another $54 billion that's coming from microtransactions and game sales, I'm guessing.
Gift cards.
Yeah. Yeah. DLCs. It's just, how is it this crazy is because most of the stuff, like, yeah, it does affect it maybe a little bit, but the thing is that with the whole Taiwan thing, like, we don't have a lot of crap going on with them. So, like, Trump hasn't, or at least from what I've seen, Trump hasn't issued a tariff on Taiwan yet, or is he going to be in the future? I'm not sure, but most of the games are people buying them digitally.
Yes.
So it doesn't really affect us too much. It's like, and let's talk about peripherals. How often, when you buy a good peripheral, how often do you change it out? 6, 7 years, maybe, if they're really, really good. Like a mouse, if a mouse is still good, I'm gonna use it for at least 6, 7 years, right? It's like, unless you want the latest and greatest stuff. Like, let's say you're talking about, like, you know, the 590, but according to what I heard, like, it's the 4090 is as good right now. The only reason why the 5090 is because the new hot stuff and the AI technology. That's about it. So I just feel like the whole thing I think it's more of like the gaslighting. You just want to rile people up.
Well, what's interesting about this is the messaging on this, because we saw this story from PC Gamer, but we also saw pretty much at the exact same time, almost as if it's coordinated, that IGN also released a thing about this as well. Say the Entertainment Software Association says President Trump would cause significant harm to the video game industry and everyday Americans who enjoy the hobby. They're just more or less, IGN is serving as a parrot, just parroting the voice of the ESA right here, getting the word out. And, as you can see, Daniel, who's been on our show before, says nothing can hurt the video game industry worse than the video game industry has already hurt itself. A lot of truth in that. For sure. Savvy actually came in with a quote tweet of this. It says, localizers harm the industry and everyday Americans trying to play imported video games by butchering language and sullying author intent. The ESRB and its uneven enforcement of rules harm everyday Americans trying to play video games. Example, Pokemon was threatened to lose its E rating for casino slots, but they'll happily turn away at FIFA and other loot box games with real gambling with real money. Consultants for sensitivity and diversity harm the everyday Americans gaming experience by telling devs they can't do something. American losers demanding top body type A and B out of Japanese creators and making international creatives censor at the ground levels harms the industry. DEI lowering standards and making studios waste money on senseless initiatives, along with the HR cabal, harms the industry. Governments forcing companies to sign DEI pledges harms the industry. Regulation of fiction harms the industry. Nepotism based on hiring and failing up harms the industry. Flag waving terminally online tumble arenas trying to cancel devs harms the industry. Rabid, foul-hearted Americans with TikTok rot brain who try to cancel artists and storytellers for wrongthink harms the industry. Losers who cry about male gays, which lesbian, trans, bi gays, harms the industry. Quota-based hiring harms the industry. But sure, this is where you choose to speak out against things that quote unquote harm the industry. Just sit down. Preach that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Preach. Brilliant stuff from Savvy right there. And she nails it for sure. But there's been a lot going on, Philip, with the industry as a whole, and a lot of talk about what Trump has been doing and how it does trickle down into the entertainment space. And we've seen a lot of really interesting things coming from this more or less audit of the USAID group. Have you been following this at all?
Yeah, I saw a video, I think it was yesterday, from the press secretary talking about how there are a bunch of stuff that Doge is uncovering that the USAID has been doing with like our tax money, and it's not going towards the American citizen. It's going towards I think it was like a trans comic book for like Syria or something, or Colombia or something like that. Something that doesn't have nothing to do with the US.
Yeah, let's check it out. Here they are real quick.
Yeah.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
So how does this relate? I mean, we've heard that's all just insane, right, Philip? You were just talking about the insanity of that, and
yeah,
you have contributed to that, by the way, with your tax dollars. But you've also there was also some interesting things that were discovered. Now, this is from 2012, but this really tells you about how long a lot of this has been going on. The USAID promotes gender equality and improve health through Half the Sky movement mobile games. This is the United States Agency for International Development launched 3 mobile phone games through its public-private partnership with the Half Sky movement as part of the agency's continued support of gender and family issues. The games are designed to increase global awareness and bring about social change in the areas of health, gender equality, and empowerment. This is from 13 years ago in 2012. Wow. This has only gotten worse over time. To see kind of where this money has gone to. And you see gamesforchange.org Like, okay, that's what we're doing. Is anybody shocked by this at any point? I would say I am a little shocked by just how brazen this is.
Like sorry, I am a little shocked that it goes that far back. Like I thought, like for me, like I noticed things started happening when like Trump was running for office the first time around. But now it's like I didn't know it went back that far. But like, I know that Gamergate was further back. It was like about 2014.
Yep.
And but 2012. And here's the thing: I think it happened is because we let it happen. We got complacent. It's like, oh, it's not a big deal. I've been working in the game industry for more than 15 years now. Oh, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Oh, and then now it's it's a big deal, but it's also sort of too late. They're all these woke people and people who are like promoting the DEI stuff has already been ingrained into the game industry, and they're already a part of like 60%, like 40 or 50% of the game industry is DEI. And the thing is, the game industry, in at least in my opinion, is the most diverse and is most accepting. And I don't know, it's just it feels like we let it happen, unfortunately.
This is interesting. I was just looking at this as you were talking, and I was reading through this a little more. I want to read this just a little bit more. These games tackle key issues related to health and public equity. The Family Choices game aims to increase the perception of girls' place in and values to families, with the focus on keeping girls in schools. 9 Minutes introduces players to the keys, do's, and don'ts of having a healthy pregnancy. And in Worm Attack, players work to rid themselves and their communities of incestual worms. The new mobile games advance two of our most important priorities: the promotion of gender equality and the use of science and innovation to accelerate development, said USAID Administrator Rajiv Shah. We are pleased to partner with the Half the Sky movement in creating innovative, accessible solutions to reach and educate women and girls about critical social, economic, and health issues. Now, on the surface, that doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but a quick Google search of this guy, USAID Administrator Rajiv Shah. Who is this person? Well, Rajiv Shah is an American physician, economist, and executive. He is president of the Rockefeller Foundation.
Okay.
Man.
And former government official and health economist who served as the 16th administrator, there it is, for the USAID from 2010 2015. Wow. He's tied to the Gates Foundation, the Obama administration, right? This tells you, I mean, wow, like the slippery slope. This is a straight up globalist here. And you can see what's been going on since earlier than 2012. It's amazing.
Yeah, it runs deep.
Yes, it runs deep. And I think that's what people are so freaked out about with this stuff, is that these people realize that the meal ticket's done. The fact that the entire government is in the process of being audited and all this waste is going to go away sounds spectacular to everybody, except for the people who've been handed free money for however long it's been. It's amazing.
It's money laundering for more than a decade.
Just absolutely amazing. Amazing to see. Well, now we know. And I'll tell you, that's a deep dive for Savvy right there. That is crazy to think.
Yeah.